Okay. My name is Jill Mangaliman.
And your hometown is?
Let's see here. I grew up in Seattle, Washington, born and raised, but my family is from the Philippines, specifically Ilocos, Bantay, Santo Domingo.
How did you end up in Seattle?
Let's see. Well, how did my family end up in Seattle?
Yeah.
how did I end up here?
Or both, I guess.
Yeah, so I guess my great-grandfather, no, scratch that. My grandfather, my lolo, he was traveling to the United States in the 30s, 40s to do work. So he would come through Seattle, and then he would go to the canneries, or he would go down to California to do work in the fields. And he often talked about Seattle to my dad. And so when my dad was also traveling, he also made time and effort to come to Seattle, and just really loved it here, and had memories. And so when martial law happened in the Philippines, my dad and my mom, eloped, and they're like, want to raise a family, but we're really affected by the fascism that was happening, and so they were like, we gotta get out of here. Yeah. And basically came out to Seattle and settled here in 1976.
Oh wow.
Yeah, officially.
And you were born here, right?
I grew up in West Seattle, and kind of lived in different places in the city. I currently live in Burien, but I live, work, 85% of my life is in Seattle.
So you live in Seattle?
I sleep in Burien. Well. My family and friends are here. Yeah.
Where did you go to school, and what did you study?
Okay, let's see. How far back do you want to go? Elementary or college, or way back when?
I guess. Yeah, elementary.
Okay. So I went to Catholic school, Our Lady of Guadalupe, from kindergarten through 8th grade, and OLG. And then after that I went to Kennedy High School in Burien for high school. And then after that I went to the University of Washington and studied all sorts of things, but I landed on human geography, looked at the study of people and places, wanted to really understand that connection. So I graduated in when did I graduate? 2001 from the UW. It was really hard. I think back then I was able to attend via the Husky Promise, but I still had to work and do volunteer, and so I finished really quickly, but it was because I was trying to hustle through school and not be broke.
Yeah. That's something that we still are struggling with today. So yeah. What was your aha moment with activism? And I guess we could backtrack to what do you do today for living?
For living?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So today I work at this organization, Got Green. We're an environmental justice, people of color-led organization. We kind of look at the intersections of racial, economic, and environmental justice, and basically ensuring that people can live in a healthy environment, and also work, live, learn, play, and have access to livelihood and housing and their basic needs, And so I think what brought me here was, I was, let's see, when back. 2000, I think it was in 2007 and 8 is when I started to become politicized around healthcare. I was out of work. This is kind of a trend when I'm not working. I was what, I want to do something with my life, and so I started canvassing for a universal healthcare campaign, because my mom has heart issues, and I really wanted everyone to have access to free healthcare for everyone, and regardless of how much money they have or their conditions. And so I really got involved in that fight. And then after that I was involved with getting out the vote in 2008, and that was exciting. I was like, wow, everyone's, like coming out and voting, and we make a difference. And then election day came and we won, and then I was again out of work, and so and I was like, oh man, what am I gonna do? I have to pay rent. And I actually got a phone call from the founder of Got Green. He was like, hey, we're looking for folks to come on to this project around energy efficiency and the green economy. And I'm like, yeah, I'll get involved. And I didn't know what that meant, but I was like, yeah, I need a job. So and it was a short contract to basically talk to people at their homes about energy efficiency and climate change. And I think during that short project, I started to connect the dots on oh, this is really important. The environment isn't this disconnected thing from us, right? This is about our home, and it's about our health and our families and our loved ones. And I think during that time, even though the project finished, I stuck around and started to volunteer with Got Green and joined their leadership team. Eventually joined the staff in 2013, and then in 2015, I had this leadership transition with the founder and became the director. And so I've been here since, I guess, officially 2009 as first as a leadership team member, and then now here in leadership. And I think that's the beautiful thing about Got Green, is that we're creating a space, a community space for young folks and all generations to really work towards systemic change. And how do we improve our communities, but also show solidarity for communities around the world? Because there's people fighting for environmental justice in the Philippines, right? And I don't know if you remember, but in 2013 there was the Typhoon Haiyan, and they're still recovering, right? Folks are still fighting for their rights and to rebuild their community. I had the opportunity to do typhoon relief that in 2013 and 14, and just seeing those same kind of issues around extraction happening in the Philippines, and resources being taken by multinational corporations. It's also happening here, and so our struggles are connected, and the people's right to live healthy long lives and breathe healthy air and clean water, have clean water to drink, and have a home, those are the same things we're fighting for. Yeah.
Under this political climate, what do you think are the best things that we can do to stop climate change?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many things. I feel like people can choose their battles. I really do think that it does start with the individual to want to make a change, and to realize this world is all we got, Mother Earth is what we got. And so to really start to identify ways that we can move away from the fossil fuel extractive economy, this really harmful, violent economy that we have. And whether you decide to do personal choices around your lifestyle choices, where you are cycling to work, or even consuming less, or buying less, or wasting less, and then taking it to the next tier around where am I investing my dollars, right? Am I investing in big corporations, or am I investing in the local community and the local economy, supporting local farmers and supporting local businesses, to the next level around where do I want to put my energy and time? Will I join struggles to keep extraction in the ground, to stop multinational corporations from doing large-scale mining and destroying people's homes, to even fighting for people's right for self-determination. When I went on Expo last winter, we were learning about how the indigenous people in the Philippines, the Lumad, are fighting for their land, and they are environmental justice land defenders too. And so when the military goes and tries to push them out of there, that's also harming the environment, because they are the caretakers. And so how do we, as people in the U.S., show up for folks who are defending the land, and really, have to speak up against the amount of money that the U.S. is pouring into the militarism around the world. And so I think that's where we can also show international solidarity for human rights, for the rights of nature, for Mother Earth too. It's really like how do we create a different type of system, a different type of economy. So it just every level there's a way to participate, and people will like I always say like join an organization, like don't do it in isolation. Find a group, you know, like. One of the first things I did in the Philippines was like plant trees, and the children were really grateful because everything had been swept away from the typhoon, and you know we were just saying like, oh, we hope those trees are still standing or strong, and because we're planting seeds, and I think it's going to take a long time for us to transform the economy, but every contribution will add up.
I know you're also involved with the Malay movement heavily. What kind of roped you into that, or what was like your aha moment of getting started in activism?
Yeah, I mean, I think when I was very focused locally, again, like just worried about, how do I, advocate for myself and my family here in Seattle. It wasn't until I attended a report back from folks who just came back from an exposure trip, and they were talking about what they saw around like peasant farmers fighting for their rights to till the land, for their ability to have livelihood, and I think they were reporting out about like the Hacienda Luisita massacre. And also just like hearing their stories, it just made me want to connect more with my roots and where my family came from, because I hadn't been to the Philippines since I was like little, and I didn't really like know, and so I wanted to know more, and that really drew me in just to learn more, and I eventually took PSR and Philippine Society and Revolution, and I went on my own expo and got involved with Gabriela. And eventually, when things are heightening in the Philippines, I also started to learn about other international like movements, and how the importance of having an international community to support each other, like the Free Palestine movement, or like the Black Liberation movement, even like what's going on in Korea around peace talks, like. It wasn't until I can start to look internationally and see the U.S.'s role, and also like the importance for people to be self-determining their own, for their own country. And I was like, oh dang, the Philippines isn't free yet, even though we have independence, and so-called independence. And so like I think the Malayan movement is really, yes, it's focused on like the Duterte fascism that is rising, but it's always been there because the U.S. has always had its control over the country, and other countries too, like Canada and China, and where these multinational corporations just look at the Philippines as a place where they can go and get the resources and exploit people. Like, we don't want that anywhere. It's very environmental justice too. So I think that, again, like when I first joined, I was like, I don't know anything. And I was like, actually, I know a bunch, and started to learn over the years like how I can, how I'm part of the movement, and how I can contribute or be part of, just like, again, like making sure that our folks can have a healthy life and healthy world. It's the same. I want the same for people in the Philippines and around the world. We kind of talked about it earlier, but do you want to explain more about what's going on in the Philippines and some of the other struggles you're working on tackling right now? In the Philippines, I think like there's so many things that are going on. There's the war, the so-called war on drugs, where the targeting of poor people who who don't have livelihood and are often like pegged as like doing something illegal, but really it's just like who's responsible for all of this, and they're not going after the drug lords at the higher ups, but really just like poor low income folks, and really they need help. They don't need to be killed or harassed, right? And so I think that's something that we're really affected by, people hearing the stories about, especially in like the urban poor areas, that there is like real fear and loss like happening, like young people who have a future, who had a future or could have had a future if they had just livelihood or a chance. It's very similar to the war on drugs here in the U.S. It's just like this massive like targeting, and it's not a solution to poverty at all. And it's just wrong on all corners. It's like, how can you justify taking a human life without, there's no real reason, and there's no justice or due process. Like, it's just basically killing people on the street. And then there's also the war on the so-called war on terrorism, and when they say terrorism, they're talking about like anyone who opposes the government. And that, again, like, how is that like a democracy, right? Can people not have opinions? Does not the government serve the people? Like, what if people are, they have issues and they care about like human rights? So they're basically making it illegal to be an activist or to be vocal about what's important in the community. And so it's very, and that's also how like the intensive militarization that's happening there. I was able to visit political prisoners on my last trip, and these are folks who are just organizing in their community, right? Like, I met Amelia Pond, who is a 65-year-old teacher from Mindanao, and she's just like, I was put in here and I have all these health issues, and they were telling me that, like, I had killed somebody, but I'm like, I'm an elderly woman, I could barely like walk without my cane. Yeah. So they were doing these things called trumped up charges, where they'll just like tack people's activists' names onto like things and then put them in jail, and it's like, you're trying to silence them. Amelia actually was released on Human Rights Day, so through the campaigning, and people were like, this is messed up, like, these are like our community members. And it just shows the desperateness of like the Duterte administration to show that they're, like, look, we're getting people and we're filling up our jails. It's like, no, you're not doing anything to make the country better. Yeah. You're taking away our community leaders and our teachers. And so I think that has been something on my mind too. It's just like the increasing repression in the Philippines. But at the same time, people aren't letting up, right? Even though there's more militarism, there's more attacks on the people, folks are still organizing and advocating for their rights. As we saw also with the International People's Tribunal recently in Belgium, they had an international court, and people talked about all of the different human rights violations of workers' rights, all of these things that have been coming to head in the Philippines, and gave a guilty verdict. And it was just like, no, we're not going to like stand by and let this happen. Of course, the response from Duterte is to increase police and to also include special police in the east and west coast of the U.S., which is messed up. Like, it reminds me of like Marcos times when they were sending assassins and goons to bully or kill our activists. And so I think times are heightening, but folks are not giving up, because we really do believe that the Philippines should, again, like, be a free country and have like everything from livelihood to land reform to healthy environment. I don't think people are scared, and that gives me the courage to also keep fighting too, because again, everything that we do here supports over there too. We're connected. I'm just rambling now.
That's awesome. Knowing that the call for activism is really needed right now, what advice would you have for college students regarding activism?
I mean, for college students, I think like the youth are like the lifeline of the movement. Like, a lot of us, we're feeling really sad when Uncle Bob passed away, and we looked around and like, who's going to be the next Uncle Bob, and who's going to carry the torch? And then we looked around and like, it has to be us, it has to be, and I think like continually we have to look at each other as the leaders and the folks who are going to move us forward. And again, I'm looking to the youth, especially because you guys bring the fire. And yeah, I think the advice is to just believe in yourselves and to always stay critical, but also take risks. And yeah, it may feel uncomfortable going against the grain or breaking away from the status quo of like, oh, I'm supposed to, you know, graduate, get a job, and get married and have a house.
Yeah.
But like, the world isn't just as simple as that. And I hope that a lot of folks start to dig deeper and take chances around, like, you know, organizing and defending like things that are important to you. Building collectively with others. I think, again, like going against to what we're told to do. Yeah.
Awesome. And I think my last question is, where do you think you fall in the history of Filipinx activism?
Oh, I don't know. I feel like, where do I fall in the history? I think folks will look back and they're like, oh, I might have a footnote. I don't know. I think like I'm so used to being in the present. I haven't really thought about like what people will think when they look back at us. I hope they'll have some lessons. I hope that we're like people in my generation are supportive, they become the supportive elders that can help share the lessons but not get in your way. I hope that the movement the movement continues on beyond us, and I definitely am excited to like help like shepherd in the next folks and hand over the keys and the torch when necessary, because I felt like the elders did that for me too. They were like, here you go, you know, we're here for you. And so I just wanted to let folks know, like, yeah, we're here for you, and we're hoping to leave the world a little bit better and less hectic so that y'all can take over.
Well, you have me roped in, okay. So yeah, well, that was all I really had for my questions. But did you want to share anything else?
I mean I always encourage folks to go back home, visit the Philippines, hopefully like on an exposure trip or medical mission. It's a bit different than going for vacation. I mean, you could still do that and, you know, pair it together with a little exposure trip, or to learn about other struggles around the world. I know there's organizations that send folks to China and to Korea and Japan, and, you know, I think there's also different opportunities to build international solidarity. We even like go up to Canada every now and then and meet with our solidarity friends up there. So I think that's how do we build this global community. That's it.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you.